In a place reduced to ruins, it seems like an entire world has collapsed. But in another world, someone stands, staring at a tall tower in front of him. He says, "Now, it's the 9th floor." The scene shifts to the next morning. Si-hyun looks at Hyeon-Woo in shock. Hyeon-Woo had managed to secure a compensation of 11 billion won and ownership rights to 4 beginner dungeons. As an additional reward, Hyeon-Woo also received something, or rather, someone, the woman he had carried last night. Si-hyun asks, "How did you manage to get all that from the head of the powerful Aries Guild?" Hyeon-Woo casually replies, "He had no choice unless he wanted to die." Still curious, Si-hyun points at the unconscious woman and asks, "Why did you bring her here?" Hyeon-Woo answers, "As a hostage. Plus, there's something I need to find out." Si-hyun narrows his eyes suspiciously. "What exactly do you need to find out?" Hyeon-Woo glances at him and says coolly, "It's personal. Don't worry about it." Hearing this, Si-hyun hesitates but decides not to press further. "I'm heading out," he says. "A group of boss monsters just respawned today. I'm planning to capture them all." Hyun-Woo simply waves his hand and says, "Be careful." After Si-hyun leaves, Hyun-Woo stares at the tattoo on the woman's arm. His eyes sharpen. The tattoo looks eerily similar to the skull mask he wore inside the tower, but he wonders, is this just a coincidence? To be sure, Hyun-Woo checks the woman's status. Her name is Hongrin, age 24. Aside from that, there's no particularly special information, and Hyun-Woo is certain he has no memory of ever meeting her before. He thinks to himself, "I'll just ask her directly when she wakes up." Moments later, an information screen pops up in front of Hyun-Woo. It announces that a new climber has started ascending the 9th floor. But within less than a minute, another notification appears. The system is summoning Hyeon-Woo, now an official guardian. Caught off guard, Hyeon-Woo suddenly finds himself inside the AV room. With a serious tone, he asks, "Why did you call me here?" AV looks at him and says, "He's coming." Hyeon-Woo frowns. "He? Who are you talking about?" AV calmly replies, "The next climber." Hyun-Woo's curiosity deepens. "What's he like? When will he get here?" AV simply displays the same notification screen that Hyeon-Woo had seen earlier. Without hesitation, Hyeon-Woo smacks AV on the head and says, "Let me guess, you're about to say you can't tell me anything beyond what's on that screen, right?" Holding his head, AV protests. "I've told you countless times, there's nothing I can do. Your authority level is too low." Growing even more annoyed, Hyeon-Woo says, "If you don't know what kind of climber he is or when he's arriving, then why bother calling me here? Just to repeat the same notification?" AV quickly responds, "That's not it. I invited you here because I have a request." Still skeptical, Hyeon-Woo asks, "A request? What kind of request?" With a serious face, AV explains, "This climber will be tougher than anyone you've faced before. Before he arrives, there's something you must obtain immediately." Without wasting time, Hyun-Woo asks, "What is it?" AV answers, "You need to learn magic as soon as possible. Otherwise, it'll be dangerous." Hyun-Woo smirks mockingly and says, "Dangerous? Does that mean this climber is high level?" AV quickly refutes, "No. If it were a high-level climber, magic alone wouldn't be enough. The arrival of a high-level climber would basically mean the end of the world." Looking deadly serious, AV continues, "You won't even be able to handle this mid-level climber without magic." Hyun-Woo falls silent for a moment, then asks, "Can't you tell where he'll appear? Or will there be another rift like last time?" AV replies, "I can't say for sure. There might be a rift, or there might not. The climber's arrival depends on their power, or their mission." Finally, Hyun-Woo understands. A mid-level climber is about to arrive. He scoffed and said, "So basically, you're trying to use me to deal with some unknown threat. That's what you're getting at, right?" His fist clenched, ready to punch AV again. Still holding his head from earlier, AV tried to defend himself. "Why are you always so angry and violent towards me? Haven't you ever heard the saying, 'You shouldn't hit a vulnerable woman'? Were you raised wrong or something?" he said with frustration. But Hyun-Woo's reply made AV fall silent. "I don't have parents," Hyun-Woo said. "They died in an accident when I was a kid." AV froze and lowered his head. In a regretful tone, he said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I shouldn't have said that." But Hyun-Woo just gave a small smile and replied, "It's fine. I don't really think about it much. You don't have to feel guilty." Hearing that, AV simply fell silent, staring at Hyun-Woo with a confused expression. Deep inside, he started wondering, maybe Hyun-Woo isn't such a bad person after all. Meanwhile, at the Guild Arang building in Gwangjin, Hyun-Woo was training in magic under Seo-young's direct guidance. But even after 4 days, there had been no significant progress. Seo-young was getting frustrated. She had never heard of a hunter struggling like this before. Although magic was Seo-young's specialties, and she had been doing her best to help, Hyun-Woo's magical abilities simply refused to develop. It was a situation she'd never encountered. Just then, Si-hyun came in, bringing a letter for Hyun-Woo. It turned out to be an official notice stating that Hyun-Woo had founded a guild. Surprised, Seo-young asked, "When did Hyun-Woo start a guild?" Hyun-Woo explained, Since I have a dungeon now, I thought it'd be good to try new things. I named it Guardian. Both Seo-young and Si-hyun looked skeptical, thinking the name didn't really suit Hyeon-Woo's character. Annoyed, Hyeon-Woo changed the subject. Anyway, what about the woman I brought back? Has she woken up yet? Si-hyun answered, she's still asleep. Worried, Hyeon-Woo said, don't tell me she's brain dead or something? Si-hyun quickly replied, no way. The nurse said she's just in shock. Hyeon-Woo let out a sigh of relief. I've been busting my ass every day, but I still can't use magic. The worst part is, I don't even know what magic is supposed to feel like. Seo-young, clearly stressed, said, maybe we should find someone who can implant magic into you? Si-hyun immediately guessed, you mean Nakagawa Yasumi? Hyun-Woo's eyes widened. Implant magic? What do you mean? As Seo-young explained, Nakagawa Yasumi, the leader of the Izanami Guild in Japan. I've heard she has a unique skill called acupoint. She can boost magic power in hunters who struggle to awaken their abilities. Excited, Hyeon-Woo quickly pulled out his phone and searched for Nakagawa Yasumi's profile. Looks like I'll have to go to Japan to meet her, he said, already feeling a bit annoyed at the hassle. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, Japan, disaster had struck. A climber had arrived, bringing chaos in his wake. Nakagawa Yasumi and her guild members were desperately trying to hold him back, but they were being overwhelmed. Yasumi shouted at the climber, who are you, really? The climber responded, maybe it's fate that you managed to dodge my sword, so I'll answer your question. People call me many things, climber, destroyer, devil, even thunder god. But my true name is Cheonma. Back with Hyeon-Woo, he received a notification that the new climber on the 9th floor had officially arrived. Without wasting a second, he ordered Si-hyun to get ready to leave. On the way, Hyeon-Woo thought to himself, I still don't have any magic skills? Could this be a problem? Si-hyun, knowing Hyeon-Woo's reckless habits, complained, bro, I know you're always impulsive, but dragging me all the way to Japan just to implant magic? That's crazy. Hyeon-Woo simply replied, hey, I've got other business there too, so it works out. Si-hyun asked again, but do you even have a passport? Hyeon-Woo froze. Oh crap. But deep down, he knew, I have to catch that climber. Inside the conference room of the Japan Branch Hunter Association, a man asked Nakagawa Yasumi, how are you still alive, Nakagawa? I heard you died fighting Cheonma yesterday. It was all over the news. Nakagawa replied, thanks to one of my artifacts, I was able to come back to life. The man pressed on. Is Cheonma really that strong? Nakagawa answered seriously. Yes. The man continued. News of your death, one of the top S-class hunters, has spread around the world. Because of that, no other hunters are willing to help us. Another person standing beside him added, we're finished. The first man spoke again, frustration clear in his voice. If Nakagawa couldn't win, there's no way the three of us, who are barely any stronger, could succeed. There are no volunteers left. The hunters we sent out have been wiped out. The civilian casualties are enormous. Are we really just going to stand by and watch this happen? At that moment, their eyes were drawn to the CCTV monitors showing the situation outside. There, they saw Hyeon-Woo had arrived in Japan and was now standing face to face with Cheonma. Hyeon-Woo and Cheonma locked eyes. Hyeon-Woo tried to scan Cheonma's status, but no information appeared. He thought to himself, is my skill useless against climbers? Then, Hyeon-Woo asked Cheonma, so, the theme this time is a historical drama from the East, huh? Cheonma didn't answer. Instead, he raised his sword and slashed toward Hyeon-Woo, but Hyeon-Woo was already one step ahead, swiftly moving behind him. He clenched his fist, ready to strike, but Cheonma easily blocked his punch. Frustrated, Hyeon-Woo muttered, quit swinging that sword around and just answer me. Cheonma, preparing to attack again, said, I'll answer you, since you managed to dodge my blade. As he launched another attack, he declared, I am Cheonma. His sword came slashing down at lightning speed. Hyeon-Woo quickly ducked, dodging the powerful aura of the strike. He's fast, Hyeon-Woo thought, but not unbeatable. It looks like a single attack, but he's actually chaining multiple strikes together. If I get hit even once, I could be sliced into dozens of pieces. I need to stay close. That'll give me the advantage. Without hesitation, Hyeon-Woo closed the distance and launched a punch. At close range, Hyeon-Woo's strength shined through. His fist broke through Cheonma's defenses and struck him in the stomach. Cheonma coughed up blood, stunned. Before he could react, Hyeon-Woo dashed in again, pressing the attack. Shocked that a climber like himself could be wounded by someone from Earth, Cheonma unleashed a storm of lightning, sending bolts crackling in every direction. He walked toward Hyeon-Woo casually and asked, Who are you? Cheonma continued, On the previous floors, and the ones before that, no one has ever been able to rival me. Elsewhere, Si-hyun, who was on site, was shocked by what he saw. Right after getting off the plane, Hyeon-Woo took off running without saying a word. Si-hyun wondered why Hyeon-Woo was standing there, and thought to himself, could it be he already knows when the rift will appear? Back to the battle between Hyeon-Woo and Cheonma. Hyeon-Woo kept dodging Cheonma's unpredictable attacks. But despite the fierce assault, he still wore a smile. He shouted, Another crazy skill, huh? Hearing the word skill, Cheonma's pride was clearly wounded. He wasn't about to let his techniques be downgraded to mere skills. With a sharp glint in his eyes, he unleashed another powerful attack. Seeing the surge of aura coming at him, Hyeon-Woo realized something. If he retreated now, the distance between them would only widen. Without hesitation, he made a bold decision to charge forward and fight head-on. Hyeon-Woo quickly closed the gap, grabbed Cheonma by the collar, and slammed his forehead into Cheonma's head with a brutal headbutt. But he didn't stop there. While Cheonma was still reeling from the impact, Hyeon-Woo immediately followed up with his special move, Destruction Punch. The devastating blow struck Cheonma hard, sending him flying backward. It looked brutal, but even so, it wasn't enough to finish Cheonma off. Slowly, Cheonma rose to his feet, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth, yet his face was still calm and confident. As he walked forward, he spoke in a steady voice. "I'll say it again." While speaking, he activated a deadly technique. A dimensional rift tore open, unleashing bolts of lightning in every direction. "You're impressive," he continued, "but that doesn't mean you're unbeatable." His expression turned cold and serious as he locked eyes with Hyeon-Woo. "Since the day I first became a climber, I've never experienced anything like this. But now—" He raised his sword high above his head. "I'm going to use everything I've got." Seeing the shift in Cheonma's aura, Hyeon-Woo immediately sensed the danger. This wasn't just any ordinary attack. This was something powerful enough to erase him from existence with a single blow. Thinking fast, Hyeon-Woo realized the only way to survive was to stay close to Cheonma, to minimize the impact of the devastating technique. Then, with a swift, almost casual swing, Cheonma unleashed his move, Extreme Thunder Spirit Sword. In an instant, the entire area transformed into a violent vortex of energy, as if the world itself was centering around Cheonma. Standing firm, Cheonma looked at Hyeon-Woo and said, "Your instincts are sharp. When I swung my sword, you grabbed my collar and spun your body. But even then," he added, "you couldn't completely avoid my attack." Nearby, Hyeon-Woo staggered, barely holding himself up. Although he dodged the direct hit, the lightning that exploded from the attack had spread through his body, leaving him in excruciating pain. Just when it seemed like his body was about to give out, a notification suddenly popped up in front of him. Magic proficiency has increased. Hyeon-Woo froze, confused. How did that happen? Quickly regaining his senses, he stepped back to catch his breath, putting distance between himself and Cheonma. Seeing Hyeon-Woo still standing, Cheonma spoke in an icy tone. "I wonder if your luck will hold out a second time." As he spoke, he began activating the same deadly technique once more. But this time, the aura radiating from him was even more overwhelming than before. Watching this unfold, Hyeon-Woo thought to himself, "Incredible. This isn't some system-granted skill. This is a technique he created himself." Then he realized something. If this Cheonma was truly the same one that appeared in countless novels, then the man standing before him was a legend, a warrior who had reached the highest pinnacle of combat, the strongest man in the world, Cheonma. Cheonma, starting to lose his patience, asked, "Even after witnessing my Thunder Spirit sword, you still insist on fighting?" Hyeon-Woo gave a slight smile. "You think that's enough to scare me?" Cheonma's irritation deepened. "Arrogant fool, have you not realized yet that you can't win against me?" Hyeon-Woo let out a small laugh. "You're right. I can't beat your power right now." But even as he said that, he moved his hand, feeling something different stirring within his body. "Your thunderbolt? It seems to have awakened my chi." Cheonma froze, caught off guard by those words. Hyeon-Woo's mind drifted back to the days he was trapped inside the tower, endlessly training in various martial arts. There was one technique he had never been able to master back then, the demon art. In the novels about knights, it was said that demon art was an absolute power, something only the greatest beings in the world could wield. Back then, Hyeon-Woo had no internal energy. He didn't know how to use chi in real combat. All he could do was mimic the movements he had read about in novels. But now, everything had changed. Suddenly, something incredible happened. From Hyeon-Woo's back, something like wings of light began to emerge. Smiling, he said, "In the last 10 seconds, you became my teacher, Cheonma." Enraged, Cheonma immediately launched a fierce attack at Hyeon-Woo, who was still floating in the air with his glowing wings. But before the strike could land, Hyeon-Woo swiftly descended to the ground. Staring directly at Cheonma, he said with confidence, "Let me show you what I've learned from you." In his heart, Hyeon-Woo began gathering all his power into one point. He focused all his energy into his legs, preparing to unleash the new technique he had just grasped. Cheonma, noticing the strange movement, wasn't about to stand idly by. He raised his sword once more, preparing to finish Hyeon-Woo with a single decisive blow. But before the sword could fall, Hyeon-Woo moved first. With one explosive leap, he shot forward and struck Cheonma with a technique he had named Kick of Destruction. The power behind the attack was overwhelming, so fast it couldn't even be followed by the naked eye. Even the surveillance cameras recording their battle shattered from the shockwave. When the dust and smoke finally cleared, only one figure remained standing: Hyeon-Woo. Cheonma was nowhere to be seen. At that moment, a screen appeared before Hyeon-Woo. You have successfully defeated the climber Cheonma. This video ends here, but the story isn't over yet. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next part.